Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, you know, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Welcome back. It's 4:02 in the Pacific Time Zone. Time for Toker Talk Radio. Thank you so much, listeners and chatters and followers on social media. I'm rapidly approaching 13,000 followers, or maybe I've already passed it. I have. I wasn't paying attention. Got over 13,000 followers on @RadicalRuss on Twitter, where I was called out on Twitter at 3:07 p.m. It's nice to know you guys are listening, and I get this instant feedback. And the feedback at 3:07 p.m. was, Radical Russ, did you just call us Indians? I'm like, oh, must be from the news. All right, so let's go back to the news. And yes, indeed, in my news story, it wrote, the Porch Creek Indians are evaluating a DOJ decision that could allow pot sales in Alabama. Porch Creek is one of the 566 federally recognized tribes. All right, so I'll cop to that. Yes, I did just call Native American people Indians. My bad. I hope you understand, though, that there's no disrespectment in that. Number one, I'm reading off news script from other websites, so I'm reading what they wrote, and occasionally I'll make a change to the news script, and I didn't this time. Normally I would have. I usually prefer to say Native Americans or First Peoples. I always like the term First Peoples. Although Indians is one of those kind of things that I think it's kind of a weird situation, isn't it? Isn't it weird how this goes back to the rant too, in a sense, how our perceptions change sometimes quicker than our culture changes, or vice versa. Right? Like, no one would these days think to call a black person colored. You just wouldn't do that. But we still have the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. And it was formed back in a time when that was a positive thing to say. You know, we're going to advance for colored people. We just don't call people colored people anymore. But that name still exists, so it is a little weird. Similarly with Indians, right? We generally don't call Native American people Indians anymore. But the federal government has a Bureau of Indian Affairs. So you're stuck with these old organizational names that don't match the new perceptions. It's kind of weird sometimes. And I wonder how that's going to change, with us, with pothead or stoner, right? That more people are going to be offended by that, right? And it's also sometimes when you're talking racial demographics in a story and you use the term African Americans, but that's a long thing to write. And there's some places it doesn't fit. And so you might say blacks, but that's not exactly accurate either. As we get more culturally aware, more socially aware, and as straight, white, heterosexual, cisgendered Christian privilege becomes less and less the norm, there are a whole lot of things we're going to have to change about how we perceive and treat and refer to one another. And a lot of it's generational. There are things that I find hilarious that the younger generation does not. Try watching Blazing Saddles, Airplane, or Revenge of the Nerds with someone under the age of 30 who's never seen it before, if you can find them. It's fascinating, right? Because you remember in Blazing Saddles, right? This was Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks' best film as far as I'm concerned, and made scathing racial commentary for 1973. But played in 2014, it doesn't come off as a scathing racial commentary that was important for its times. It comes off as just kind of racist. There's a few jokes that come off that way. Where are the white women at? You know, that kind of stuff, right? That people of my generation find this pretty damn funny. But in the younger generation, they can't see the funniness of it because their context is different. Similarly, in the movie Airplane, if you remember the movie Airplane, there's the famous two characters who speak jive. The black characters who speak jive. And then Barbara Billingsley, the funny joke is, here's Leave It to Beaver's mom, and she speaks jive too, right? That's funny as hell to me as an older, middle-aged guy. But I watched this with some younger people, and they actually openly said, oh my God, how racist. Like they were disgusted by the scene. Or there's a scene in Revenge of the Nerds. If you've seen the movie Revenge of the Nerds, where the cheerleader girl, her boyfriend, Ted McGinley, one of the greatest B actors ever. Ted McGinley is dressed as Darth Vader. So to fool the cheerleader girl, the head nerd puts on a Darth Vader mask and then slips into the fun house and has sex with her. And she doesn't know that it's not her boyfriend. To us, my generation, that was a hilarious scene. To the modern generation, that's sexual assault. That's fucking rape. They don't find that funny at all. So our perceptions are bound to change a whole lot over the next decade or so, not with just respect to marijuana, but with respect to a lot of things a lot of us have taken for granted. So get ready to roll with the times, folks. And to anyone who was offended for me saying Indians, I'm sorry. Didn't mean it that way. I just was reading a script. Be back right after this.
Elitist. Just like any other dishwashing, burger-flipping, public school-educated, self-employed, bar band, musician, National Guardsman, he's Radical Russ.
.420 Radio, fighting prohibition since 2012. 5 of the last 9 major party candidates to run for president, 3 of the last 9 vice presidential candidates, and the last 3 two-term presidents have all smoked pot. Marijuana, the gateway drug to the White House. This is the Russ Belville Show. Drug Policy Facts, replaying Fridays at 11 Pacific on 420radio.org.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for NORML. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
I get along in the middle America, but now I'm feeling blue. Summertime and I'm feeling just like I'm missing something new.
All right, welcome back. That's music from the Common Loon with Grow. Radical Russ here, Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio, just hanging out here. Checking out our chat room where someone in the chat room said that there's some people that don't like The Princess Bride. I refuse to believe that is possible. All right, let's move on. Some news from Washington, D.C. The Senate has finally confirmed an attorney general. You didn't know that we didn't have an attorney general, did you? No, we have not had an attorney general for years now because the Senate has been refusing to confirm him. Refusing to confirm the attorney general. The guy's name is Dr. Vivek Murthy. And he's been confirmed to be the Surgeon General in a 51-43 vote. He's a physician at Boston Brigham and Women's Hospital and an instructor at the Harvard Medical School. He's the co-founder of Doctors for America. And he's well qualified and has been up for confirmation for a while now. About a year after he was first nominated. So nothing in question about this man's medical credentials to be the top doctor of the United States. Before he founded Doctors for America, he founded a nonprofit for HIV/AIDS education in India and co-founded a tech company called Trial Networks that helps drug developers collaborate on clinical trials. So here we've got this guy, a son of immigrants from India, a, by all accounts, accomplished doctor, with tech experience as well. And here we are in America freaking out about Ebola. Oh my God, the Ebola made it to America. People are dying of the Ebola. And as if that's not bad enough, I mean, we have regular viruses to worry about too. I mean, flu and MERS and SARS and all these terrible viruses out there. And we've been running without a point man for the Surgeon General's office for a year now. And why is that? Why is that, dear listeners? Well, because Dr. Murthy thinks that gun violence is a public health issue. Dr. Murthy has, in the past, been a supporter of stricter gun control. Now, don't think that as the Surgeon General, Dr. Murthy has anything to do with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Nothing. Don't think that as a Surgeon General, he has anything to do with writing the laws in the House or the Senate. Nothing. But because he thinks a certain way on the issue of guns in America, the NRA whipped up its beholden senators to oppose his nomination as Surgeon General. Not because he's not a good doctor, not because he's not qualified to be Surgeon General, but because he thinks the wrong way on guns. He's not allowed to be Surgeon General, at least until today. Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming said, quote, "Americans don't want a Surgeon General who might use this position of trust to promote his own personal campaign against the Second Amendment of the Constitution." End quote. Okay. Now, Murthy has made it clear, and this is that he is, and according to, this is Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin, said that Murthy has made it clear he is not, quote, aspiring to be the leading doctor in America to engage in a political debate, but rather to engage in a public health debate about obesity and tobacco and things that make a dramatic difference in the lives of so many people who live in this country. And Senator Richard Blumenthal said, the NRA has spun a specious smokescreen to block Murthy simply because he stated the obvious fact that gun violence is a public health issue, end quote. Murthy expressed support for gun control in a letter to Congress after the shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. And that's what held up his confirmation vote. A doctor dared to express the opinion that maybe part of our public health could have something to do with random lead projectiles flying about at high velocity. That may be something we ought to consider. as a nation. And for that, he's been held out of being the Attorney General for a year. That's how politically poisonous Washington, D.C. has become at this point. Where a completely unrelated issue to what he would be doing as Surgeon General is held up as a reason for him not to be the Surgeon General. The NRA spokesman said, quote, "America's next Surgeon General should not be a political operative whose professional inexperience has been a source of bipartisan concern." He had the endorsement of the American College of Physicians, the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, and more than 100 health organizations. But Remington doesn't like what he had to say. Sig Sauer didn't like what he had to say. Isn't that something? Where the political lobby that represents the manufacturers of machines whose only job it is to wound or kill, they can hold up the job that's dedicated to help people live. The merchants of death were able to hold up the nomination of someone who's dedicated to American life. And again, this is not an issue of where you fall on the gun control issue doesn't matter. The question is whether or not that debate is something that should determine whether or not someone's a Surgeon General. Now, whether someone's the head of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, maybe you got a case there. Now his view on guns is somewhat relevant. But what the NRA didn't want is a Surgeon General who might connect the dots. That's all they were worried about, is that this guy as Surgeon General might connect the dots for the American people. Might be able to connect the dots that, yes, there are mental health issues, but every country's got those. Yes, there are violent video games, but lots of countries have those. Yes, there are violent movies, but lots of countries have those. Yes, there is access to firearms, but some countries have those as well. That maybe there's something about the American experience, our American public health, that needs to be examined in a broader way than just a simplistic bumper sticker, oh, more mental health, oh, less guns. It's not that simple. But if we can't have the leading spokespeople of our government to be able to even utter things that are demonstrably, objectively true, absolutely true. Things like, we have 100 times more gun deaths than the next highest nation in civilized nations. Why is that? What is it about our public health that makes that the case? And don't you want a Surgeon General who takes that to heart, who thinks that's a problem, that thinks thousands of people being gunned down is a problem that ought to be solved? Not that he has the ability to solve it as Surgeon General, but merely to bring up the discussion. And that's what they fear as well. Because once in office, Dr. Murphy doesn't have to run for anything. Once he's appointed as Surgeon General, and he is now, as Surgeon General, he doesn't have to bow down to the NRA or what they might think about any particular issue. That's what they're worried about, is someone in the government who would be insulated from the political power of the NRA might be able to start that conversation about why are we so violent? Why do we kill ourselves more than any other nation? Take guns out of it. Guns are just the tool. Guns are the tool we're using to kill each other more than any other nation. And yeah, maybe if we took the guns away, there'd be less killing of each other, but I think we'd still be a pretty violent people. I think we'd still go after each other in one way or another. And if we don't get to the heart of that, there's many, many more deaths to come.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
It's what makes us uniquely American Other countries have freedom. Other countries have capitalism. Other countries have mental health problems. Other countries have violent video games, movies, songs. Why are we uniquely American in killing each other? Something to think about. We're going to take a break. Bacon Dan's up next with our daily Toker tunes for Roots Monday.
420 Radio, your ticket to the Boston Freedom Rally.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while. Share.
Despite strong public support for medical cannabis, decriminalization, and legalization in Georgia, the state spends $121 million every year to arrest, prosecute, and imprison Georgians for simple possession. Each year, the state of Georgia spends less on driver services, agriculture, and forestry combined. What else can $121 million a year do in Georgia? With that much money, the state could hire and keep 3,000 more teachers, improve roads and bridges, provide tax relief for small businesses, repair aging sewage systems, or lower taxes. But right now, that's millions of dollars of your tax money wasted on failed enforcement. Tell your representative you're tired of wasteful spending and ask them to end cannabis prohibition. Join the conversation at www.peachtreenormal.org. Peachtree Normal is a proud affiliate of NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Hey Tokers and Tokettes, Radical Russ here for the Canador, a practical solution to keep herbs from drying. The Canador is the perfect airtight storage system for your fine herbs, from the half-inch thick walnut and cherry wood construction, clear top perforated jars for storage, and the humidity bead system that keeps your herbs at a perfect 65% relative humidity. I keep all my herbs in the Canador, and you should too. Check out Canador.com for more information.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Roots Monday, featuring the blues, country, folk, and jazz music that birthed the modern sounds we enjoy today. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 23 after the hour. Joining us on the telephone, we got Bacon Dan, who is excited as hell that in 84 years, the Green Bay Packers have never won at Ralph Wilson Stadium. Hi, Bacon Dan.
Hey, let's go, Buffalo. I had to do it, I'm sorry.
Oh, my God. So Aaron Rodgers had to pick yesterday to have the statistically worst day of his career ever. We had seven dropped passes. The first 7 dropped pass game since 2008 in the NFL.
Oh, yeah. And if you look, the Buffalo defense this year has the worst games that Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers have played is against my team.
I know.
So we
insane.
got that at least.
I hate losing a game when the other team doesn't score an offensive touchdown. That's just unforgivable.
Yeah.
Unforgivable. But I got to say, defense looked good.
Thank you. I mean, I have nothing against the Green Bay Packers. I was a very big Reggie White fan growing up. I have a cheesehead. But holy crap, I never expected we were going to win that game. So.
Nobody did. Oh, my God. I'm just glad that you didn't get the day off and I didn't have to, live that down at the Bills bar.
Oh, that would have been the funniest thing in the world.
No, it wouldn't. Not funny at all. All right, let's get to our tunes today because we are in the middle of our Christmas spirit, and this is the second to last Roots Monday before we take our break and come back in 2015. So I know you got some more Christmas music for us.
No, I do, and tonight we're going with another one of my personal favorites when it comes to Christmas, Mannheim Steamroller. Of course, Mannheim Steamroller started as just a way for Chip Davis to put his music out, Chip Davis becoming famous by being one of the writers for C.W. McCall, who we all know from the Convoy song.
Oh.
And, I mean, Mannheim Steamroller is pretty much, when there's Christmas, there's Mannheim. This song Ever since I was a little kid, I just love this song. It's powerful. It's great to talk up to. I myself will be smoking some gorgeous golden leaf cherry pie oil tested at 66% while listening to this right now.
All right, let's get to it. Mannheim Steamroller with God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. I'll get some White Widow OG and join you.
Nice.
.420 Radio, freeing your mind 24 hours a day. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, treat law enforcement with respect and stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney." Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com. 420radio.org is proud to replay Hemp Radio with Patty Cakes from Orange County, California. Patty Cakes, the queen of cannabis, and the crew of Hemp Radio are all veterans of Southern California's medical marijuana activism. Catch the replays at 10 Pacific on 420radio.org. Are you a hypocrite? If you live a closeted cannabis lifestyle, you are. Read about 7 people living a closeted cannabis lifestyle who are on the verge of coming out in The Hypocrites by Mara K. Eaton. Available at areyouahypocrite.net. You can purchase the book on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, also available on iTunes. Check out Mara K. Eaton on Facebook as well. Learn more at areyouahypocrite.net.
Fuck the police.
Right about now, NWA court is in full effect. Judge Dre resigning. In the case of NWA versus the police department, prosecuting attorneys are MC Ren, Ice Cube, and Easy motherfucking E.
Order. Ice Cube, take the motherfucking stand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help your black ass?
You goddamn right.
But won't you tell everybody what the fuck you gotta say?
Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young nigga got it bad cause I'm brown. And not the other color, so police...
Welcome back, everyone. 32 after the hour, and that is the seminal track, NWA's Fuck the Police. And I bring this up for news purposes. On Thanksgiving Day, and this is a report from Talking Points Memo. Thanksgiving Day, a Florida cop pulled over a man who dared to play NWA's famous song, Fuck the Police, while driving to his mother's house. Yeah, pulled the guy over, and the officer named Harold Garzon pulled up next to the driver at a stoplight in northwest Miami. This was in the Miami New Times. And said, "Really? You're playing that song? Pull over." So he pulled the guy over for playing Fuck the Police. Okay, so here's the story. The man's name is Cesar Baldalomar, and it's Thanksgiving morning, and he's 26-year-old. He's cruising through Hialeah. Now, if you don't know Miami area very well, Hialeah is kind of the lower income area of Miami. So he's cruising toward his parents' house, and he pulled up at a stoplight at West 60th Street. Police officer Harold Garzon was standing nearby, filling out some paperwork from a traffic accident. At that moment, NWA comes on. Fuck the police. "Really?" Garzon said to Baldalomar through his open car window. "You're really playing that song? Pull over." So Garzon is this 17-year-old veteran cop with a buzz cut, and he's got 16 internal affairs cases against him. Now, we don't know how many of those were sustained, but at least 16 times in 17 years, almost an average of one internal affairs case per year, pulls over this guy in Hialeah for playing Fuck the Police. And so the problem for the police officer, Garzon, is that this Baldalomar isn't just some average dude from Hialeah that he can mess with. He's a double Harvard graduate studying law at Florida International University. When Officer Garzon got Baldalomar pulled over, he told him it was illegal to play loud music within 25 feet of another person. Baldalomar said, "In 2012, the state Supreme Court struck down any law banning loud music. I know that because it was a case I have actually studied in law school." Oops for the cop. The cop grew angry, though, when Baldalomar told him that. called 2 other cops and demanded proof of insurance. Baldalomar pulled up the information on his phone. Little, electronic kind of proof of insurance. Garzon waved it off, saying, "It's got to be on paper." It doesn't. Florida changed that law a year ago. So in 2012, he tries to bust him for the loud music. 2012, they overturned that. Tries to bust him for the electronic insurance. 2013, they overturned that. So finally, Garzon wrote 3 tickets for him. 1 for the insurance, even though he had the proof of it. 1 for having an out-of-state license plate. Okay. And 1 for not wearing a seatbelt. Baldalomar says he was wearing a seatbelt the whole time and says he's still legally a resident of Massachusetts, where he graduated from fucking Harvard. When Baldalomar asked where his noise violation was, Garzon told him to take off and not to get smart. But Baldalomar refused to sign the tickets and plans to fight them in case. He'll also fight them in court, He'll also file a complaint against Garzon, possibly his 17th internal affairs case. Baldalomar says he sees Garzon's actions as a much bigger problem of police abusing their authority from Ferguson, Missouri to South Florida. Quote, "I'm educated, I know my rights, and I speak English, so I can fight this. But what about when this happens to someone who's not so lucky? Policing has to change in this country." So there you go. Cop meets citizen who actually knows his rights, knows the law. And this is something we all need to do. There's a lot of talk now about policing the police. Who's going to police the police? What's the Latin? Quo custodiet ipset? Who polices the police? I'm not sure. I don't know my Latin. I didn't graduate from Harvard. But a lot of people are talking about policing the police. And really, that comes down to us policing the police. That comes down to us forming citizen review boards and demanding that those review boards have subpoena power, indictment power. It's us demanding that any use of force against a citizen needs to involve a special prosecutor, one that's not buddy-buddy with the cops, one that doesn't see things the cops' way. This abuse that Baldalomar talks about is very common out on the streets. Most people don't know their rights and they don't know the law. A cop can just say you did this or that, and it's against the law, and most people are going to buy that. Most people are going to believe that. So body cameras, yes, let's get some cameras on those cops. Let's fire up some internal review boards. Let's have some citizen review boards with some teeth. But it's going to take more than that. It's going to take changing the perception for these cops. This is something we've been talking about all day. And the perception has been ingrained into many of them that it's a war out there. It's us against them. The bad guys, the criminals. Now, folks, when it comes to crime and gangs, if you will, and let's all keep in mind that the police are just the biggest, baddest gang. When it comes to crime, though, very rarely is crime organized. Okay? And I mean this in the sense of murder, rape, right? There's not like criminal gangs that are forming to profit off of murder and organizing their murders in such a way as to avoid police detection. I mean, yeah, there's your mafia, there's your hitman, right? But that's like a fringe, right? Most murders that happen are out of passion. Somebody got pissed off and murdered someone. A spouse slept with someone else, guy got in a bar fight, whatever it might be. But most murders are crimes of passion. Most arsons, most thefts are individuals. They're very rarely organized gangs. Maybe car thefts. Car thefts, you might have some organized crime element, but generally speaking, the crime that most of us want to see solved are disorganized random criminals for the most part. desperate people. And where I think the cops have gotten this us against them mentality is largely from the drug war. That's what created the battle lines. That's what created the us versus them. With the drug war, we criminalized an entire industry and an entire culture that subscribes to that industry. We criminalized the growers and the processors and the purchasers and users of cannabis. And by criminalizing, we sent them underground, and we sent their culture, and we sent their groups into kind of a forced clandestine situation. Stoner culture emerged as a result of being prohibited. So we criminalize this huge industry and this huge group of people that have a natural allegiance to each other, the growers, the consumers, and so forth. That's what created the other side for the cops to fight. That's what created the war mentality, the us against them mentality, when Richard Nixon in 1971 declared drug users public enemy number one. He didn't mean all drug users. You're still okay to have your Miltowns or your Valiums or your Prozacs or your alcohol, your tobacco, just those people and those drugs. I believe that without the drug war, there could not have been as much of an us versus them mentality between police and the citizens. There was already somewhat, if you think back to the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, a little bit of us, the authority figures, versus them, the anti-authority. The Vietnam protesters and the bra burners and all that kind of stuff. There is that dichotomy might have existed, but I don't think it would have grown as strong. No, it's the war on drugs providing the battlefield, the combatants, and the means to conduct this war. Again, on our side, the profit in this industry provided us the means to continue to grow. To go from having less than 1 million pot smokers in this country to over 15 million adult pot smokers in this country. We've been able to grow because of the profit in it. We've been able to profit in it because of its illegality. Its illegality forced us to all group and band together, and that's what's created the us versus them. Now, there isn't a similar us versus them when it comes to alcohol. Even though cops are called upon nightly to respond to bar fights, domestic abuse, and other crimes and other public disorder due to alcohol. Every weekend, I can ride my bike down to downtown, Old Town Portland, where they have an entire, it's like a 7x4 block area that's blocked off from traffic, that have cops, both mounted and foot patrol cops, wandering those streets, because that's the bar section of Portland, and that's where all the people are out getting drunk. And despite the cops having to put so much more effort and dealing with so much more crime from the alcohol community, cops don't think of alcohol drinkers as an us versus them situation. Why? Because some of them drink alcohol too. Because there's plenty of cops that drink beer as well. With alcohol, the cops are easily able to separate the criminal actors from the substance they're using. Despite the fact that alcohol actually does have a causal relationship to creating more of that crime, they deny that, they'll dismiss that, and treat individual drinkers as criminals or assholes or whoever they need to deal with, and not think of all drinkers as something that's a problem. That's where we need to get with marijuana. The problem is we can't get there with marijuana so long as the cops and other people in authority can't use any marijuana. And this is why I think a lot of workplaces and a lot of the people that are watching legalization unfold are so strong on keeping a workplace right to discriminate against marijuana users. They've realized the inevitability of it becoming legal. They can no longer prop up the drug war state and suggest to fellow citizens that we need to incarcerate marijuana users. But they don't have to yet give up on the us versus them, so long as we are still less than them, so long as we are not their equals, so long as we are just those people who use that drug and not the good ones. If we can get to a point where marijuana is treated in our society like alcohol, like we keep voting on it to be, then that will necessarily lead to cops who smoke pot, politicians who smoke pot, teachers who smoke pot. And the more of those people exist, the more we'll be able to separate the criminal actors and the assholes out of pot and be able to look at it as, oh, some people are the bad criminal pothead types. Some people, a few people, are a problem. But most of them that are using marijuana need to be left alone. They're not causing any problem for anybody.
420 Radio, your ticket to Seattle Hemp Fest. At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show. At Royal Queen Seeds, we've got premium feminized cannabis seeds, including auto-flowering varieties for the medical cannabis user. We've got bulk shipments available and new CBD oil. Plus, we accept payment in Visa, MasterCard, and Bitcoin, as well as other methods. Check out our website at royalqueenseeds.com for more information. We are located in the Netherlands, and we have online grow experts ready to help you now at Royal Queen.
Welcome back, everyone. That's music from Johnny Dodds, Hot Six from 1929. Some of our Roots Monday Viper Hour music. The new Viper Hour is coming up next, 5 o'clock p.m. Episode number 43, The Great All-Female Swing Bands. A look at the 1940s World War II era when many of the musicians, male musicians, were off fighting the war. And there was a rise of all-female bands to take their place. Some really great musicians. Check it out. New Viper Hour number 43 coming up at 5 o'clock. All right, so just winding things up here for our last segment. Going to go back for a second to that Surgeon General issue and how the Surgeon General was held up for a year. His nomination was held for a year because the NRA didn't like him. Here now, I have the tweet. It turns out it wasn't even a speech. It wasn't even, it was a tweet that set them off. Here's the tweet that he sent. October 16th, 2012. Vivek_Murthy. Quote, tired of politicians playing politics with guns, putting lives at risk because they're scared of NRA. Guns are a healthcare issue. #debate health. And this scared away enough moderate Democrats, some of those blue dog Democrats in the flyover states, so that they couldn't get enough support for him to get the 51 votes they need to confirm the guy. A double graduate. He got his degree from Yale School of Medicine, worked as a physician instructor at Harvard Medical School. Now they finally got the 51 votes because now it's the lame duck session. You know, the Republicans are going to take the Senate in January. And it was theorized that if Murthy hadn't been confirmed, that it was likely we would have gone the rest of President Obama's term with no Surgeon General. Now, the statement, I think, is a pretty decent statement. Guns are a healthcare issue. How are they not? Isn't it the job of the Surgeon General? Like, if there were something in America that were killing thousands of people, let's say a virus. Let's say there's this terrible virus that was killing thousands of people. Wouldn't the Surgeon General have to weigh in on that? What if there were a product that were killing thousands of people? You know, like tobacco did. Surgeon General has to speak up on that too, right? There was a product called tobacco, when used properly, kills thousands of people. Surgeon General spoke up about that. That's what the NRA is afraid of, is that people will make the common sense realization that random sprayings of bullets affect the public health. They are a healthcare issue. If you lived in an environment where there was too much carbon monoxide in the oxygen in the air, that would be a public health issue. So why isn't too many random bullets in the air a public health issue? And again, I don't think that the answer to it is necessarily a whole lot of restriction on guns, although I do have to say I am for universal background checks. And that's interesting to me too, because, you know, a lot of people that will fight the gun issue will rely on the Second Amendment. My God, it's in the Second Amendment. The right shall not be infringed. Well, what about felons? Oh, yeah, felons can't have a gun. Oh, well, what about the mentally ill? Oh, yeah, the mentally ill can't have a gun. Oh, all right. How about drug abusers? No, they can't have a gun. Okay, so the right cannot be infringed except for these situations where you feel that it was okay for it to be infringed. So obviously, infringing the right is not inviolable. Obviously, it seems that majorities support banning felons from having guns, banning the mentally ill from having guns, and banning drug abusers from having guns, which again needs to be changed to reflect marijuana's legality, but that's a whole other topic. So it's clear to me that we accept some infringement on that right in order to support the public good. To me, I would think that someone who supports that felons shouldn't have guns or the mentally ill shouldn't have guns has to support universal background checks. If you're against a felon having a gun, how can you be for having a loophole that allows 40% of the gun sales in America to happen without a background check at a show of some sort? So yeah, I don't understand the opposition to universal background checks. I would go further. I'm for gun rights, but I'm also for gun responsibilities. I'd like to see a situation where, yeah, when you buy a gun, you are responsible for that gun until you sell it back to a federal gun dealer. If you give that gun to someone, if you sell that gun to someone, if you pass it down to your children and it ends up hurting someone, you are just as culpable as the person who fired that gun. Lifetime gun responsibility. Oh, what? Your kid snuck into the cabinet and got the gun out and shot another kid? And you shouldn't be held responsible? Bullshit. Your gun, lifetime responsibility. Kid got a hold of it? You should have locked it up better. What? Your son, your teenage son, stole your gun safe key and got into your guns and took them down to a school and shot up a bunch of kids? You're guilty for that. Didn't want your kids sneaking into your gun safe? Should have got a better gun safe, huh? Anyway, I didn't want to make this all about guns, but sometimes I can't help myself. Let me go back to another campaign that's a little more fun. If you haven't seen this, you should check it out. It's on the web, freethenipple.com. freethenipple.com. And what this is about is another thing that should just be common sense, right? And that is, I can take my shirt off anywhere in the United States and walk around with my nipples showing. You probably don't want that to happen, but it could happen. I could do it. Anywhere in the United States, I could show off my nipples. But in the United States of America, in 35 states, 70% of the United States, it is effectively illegal for a woman to be topless. And that includes breastfeeding. And that's just wrong. According to the website, in less tolerant places like Louisiana, an exposed nipple can take a woman to jail for up to 3 years and cost $2,500 in fines. Even in New York City, which legalized public toplessness in 1992, the NYPD continues to arrest women. And the movie tells the story of these activist women who are protesting censorship laws in the United States and in New York, and they've gotten a lot of celebrities to sign on with them. Liv Tyler, Lena Dunham, Miley Cyrus. They have a lot of topless marches that they'll do throughout New York City. And really, folks, this seems like a no-brainer to me. Just a no-brainer. Why are Americans so afraid of a boobie? Now, for a lot of folks, these women could be walking down the street with fully loaded assault weapons, open carrying them, and they'd be cool with that. But if one of those women took her shirt off, oh my God, nipples! How stupid is that? So you can check it out. It's at freethenipple.com. They've got t-shirts. They've got all sorts of information about that. But and some folks might think, well, this is kind of, silly. This is kind of, low rung issue, Russ, but it's not. And it goes back to this theme that I've been talking about for the past week or so, and that is legalization versus equalization. And women in this country are not equal in so many ways, and this is just one of them. Women aren't allowed to be topless. They're not allowed to show their nipples. Why not? Why are we so uptight? How long is it going to take us in America to get past the puritanical upbringing of our ancestors and just recognize some simple civil rights, like everybody has the right to be topless? Hell, I'd go farther. I'd say everybody has the right to be naked. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to have to look at a dong flopping around as they're walking down the street. But come on now. This is America, and we're supposed to have some freedom here. And things should be allowed. Things should be legal until they're proven harmful. That's my core belief in a free society. Everything should be legal until you can prove it to be harmful. And I do not see the harm that is caused by viewing human beings in their natural state. But I can see a lot of harm caused by having a different standard for men versus women. The prohibition on female toplessness just continues to tell women that they're second place, that their bodies don't matter as much as male bodies, that they don't have as much say or control over them as men do. And that's got to change. And yeah, sure, maybe I'm just a little selfish because I like boobies. But hey, my selfishness gets some more people some civil rights. Isn't that a good thing? Oh my God. It's Monday, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and views you can use for the cannabis community. I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it.